Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome Newcastle. Welcome our public. Welcome students, and welcome the world. I'm Larry Zazzo, head of performance here at Newcastle's International Center for Music Studies. And these are our weekly student performances. This is a chance for our students, our finalist students, to get a chance to perform live. Obviously, we cannot do this at the moment, so what we're doing is, as the students have pre-prepared live performances of 5 to 10 minutes of music, and they're here with us here on the Zoom, and we're going to do a Q&A with questions from the students, and also questions. We encourage those of you out there who are watching us live on our YouTube channel to put into the YouTube comments any questions you might have. Olivia, Cameron, and I will do our best to surveil that and try to keep track of that, and try to put your questions to the students who we're going to interview afterwards. We have 4 students. We have a 5th student who we're hoping who's going to come, but we have a lovely group of mix, as usual, a mix of classical, pop, and folk for you today. So I'm going to start off with one of our classical finalists, one of our classical pianists. This is Cindy Lee, who is going to be playing the first movement of the Beethoven Tempest Sonata. Take it away, Cindy.
I hope you're all well. I'll be playing the first movement of Beethoven's Piano Sonata in D minor, opus 31 number 2, and it's also known as the Tempest Sonata. Hope you enjoy. stay safe.
That was the first movement of Beethoven's Tempest Sonata. Thank you very much, Cindy, for a very committed performance there and a very stormy, um, difficult music to play. Cindy, welcome. We're going to have a little interview here. Bring in some questions. While I'm interviewing Cindy, can I just say that if you guys can scroll through the chat, students, Olivia has put a very important question or a couple questions into the chat. We would very much love your feedback, your answers, not just feedback, but just actual answers to those questions, which is really helpful for us in planning semester 2. So if you could answer those directly to Olivia, that would be really helpful, and she can compile that data. She's also put a link to the module feedback form. Again, I don't think we got many answers, but if you get a chance, click on that link so it's in your computer. And if you have a spare minute or two after these performances, we'd really to get some feedback in general, but also some answers to some questions that Olivia has put in the chat. I think she'll put them in the chat occasionally now and at the end. So let's continue. So Cindy, let me see if we got some questions here. Any questions from anyone? Cindy, welcome. How did that feel? I suppose I got a couple questions for you. We had a question, and I've done a little quick searching. Why is it called the Tempest Sonata?
So there's a theory that one of Beethoven's, I think it was his friend or something, asked him sort of what was the meaning behind the piece, and Beethoven's response was, go have a look at or read Shakespeare's Tempest. So I might go do that at some point. But yeah.
I also read that he might have mistaken, because in German the Tempest is der Sturm, right? But there's also a famous preacher called C.C. Sturm. And he thought maybe he was telling him to read some of this preacher's kind of philosophical works on nature. Does that influence, regardless of whether it's true or not, does that influence how you interpret the piece and how you play it?
Yeah, I think so. There's like a lot of stormy sections within that movement, and I think that's really important to show, especially in contrast with the sort of softer sections.
Yes, if it is a storm, what is that largo? What is that opening arpeggio? What do you have in your mind when you're playing that?
Sort of like the calm before the storm, I guess. Like this sort of mysteriousness.
It'd be interesting in the chat, the students, what did you have in what imagery does Beethoven conjure in your minds? That opening, for me, that opening arpeggio is almost I feel like it's the sunlight breaking through the clouds and then thunder. That's what I have in my head. Of course, it's a little bit dangerous to go down the programmatic route, isn't it? And even though I think Beethoven inspired a lot of programmatic composers with very visual stuff, I don't think he was always going down that route. And yet we give a lot of his music all of these kind of imagery names, don't we? A question in the chat. How many years have you been playing the piano, and how long did it take you to learn just that movement? How many hours? How many years and how many hours?
I think I started playing piano when I was about 4 or 5, and I'm like 20 now. So the maths is I can't do the maths, but and then I've been learning this piece since it was during lockdown, and it was sort of after I'd finished my second year recital and I was figuring out what I wanted to do. So
you've been working on the whole sonata presumably all summer.
Yeah, and other pieces as well for my recital, but yeah.
Well, we can all hear preparation that went into that, the hours of practice and dexterity and preparation for that. So really fantastic. I hope you've seen the chats from your colleagues. It was really thrilling. Thank you very much. Wish you all the best for the rest of that sonata, and I know that's only the beginning, right?
Yeah.
It's one of three movements,
Mhm.
so there's more drama to come, isn't there? But thank you very much, Cindy. That was
Thank you.
terrific. I
Thank you so
appreciate
much.
it. And we're going to move on to our next performer, and we've got Matt Parks. He's going to be performing three songs, three pop songs, one from Royal Blood, one by Arctic Monkey, and the third by Shy FX. So three songs. Take it away, Matt Parks. Fantastic. Matt Parks on the drums with three, quite a great variety of songs here. So, anyone have any questions for Matt? Please bring it in on the chat. Olivia, I haven't been able to check the YouTube, but let me know if there's anything coming in on the stream. Matt, welcome. Where are
Hello.
we?
Good afternoon.
Hey, that was fantastic.
So,
you're in your, you got your drum kit set up in your bedroom there.
yes.
How many hours are you practicing a day?
Well, after recording that, I gave myself RSI, so that was fun. So I haven't played for a few days now, but normally I try and do at least like an hour and a half a day.
I think Mike got a lot of great compliments on your tom fills, your hat triplets, your hi hat work, and just your sense. Obviously, you're a drummer; it's your sense of time. How do you keep that sense of time? I think one question was, are you practicing with a metronome? I think there was one part in the one track I heard a click track. Are you playing to a click track, or are you playing to a backing track, or a bit of both?
So a lot of the time I'll practice with a metronome, or just like practicing technical stuff, which is pretty much how I got a decent sense of timing and stuff. For those tracks though, the first track is actually just the original song because I couldn't find a drumless version of it. The second track, it has a click at the start, but that's just to count in. There's no click throughout the rest of it, and the last one also doesn't have a click on it at all. I actually took the drums out of the original song using a pretty bad plugin, which cost me like 40 quid, but it does the job.
And getting the balance right. I mean, it's a bit of a technical feat. I mean, we usually require for these videos that there's no kind of technical legerdemain going on, but there must be some sort of balancing that you need to do. How are you feeding the sound from the drums in with the sound of the backing track? Is that somehow being processed? Did Fred help you with that? Is that something that, all the drummers out there, the first and second stage drummers, what advice can you give them in terms of setting up for recording?
So for this, because it's an electric kit, I could actually just plug straight into the kit and record straight onto my computer like that. And I could also play the backing tracks through the brain of the kit. So yeah, that made it a lot easier to record.
It does the work for you.
Pretty much, yeah.
Let the equipment do the work for you.
That's a good bit of advice I can give, yeah.
Terrific. Question from Maria. Difference, if any, of the feeling between playing on electric drums and acoustic?
Oh yeah, massive. Like, because electric, you're quite limited to the types of the types of sounds you can get. Like, obviously on an acoustic you can play incredibly quiet or incredibly loud. This just kind of has quiet and loud, but no in between. You could hear it a lot in some of the performance, especially on like the hi-hats, because they cut through quite a lot, and that's just because it's so hard to play lightly on electric hi-hats, I find.
So you're getting maybe a more compressed dynamic range?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Well, it was a really great stuff. What do you want to work the most on? Watching yourself just then, what did you think? This is what I want to improve on for my interim recital and the final recital.
Maybe pick a less garish shirt. But I don't know. I think maybe just like I look very angry when I'm playing. I'm not a very angry person, but I look really stern and angry when I'm playing. So maybe focusing on presenting myself like I'm having fun a bit more.
I think you look very concentrated. I didn't think you looked angry.
Thank
students,
you.
what do we think? I thought you presented very well. I didn't notice that particularly. You looked very concentrated and into what you were doing. But I don't think, and I think I can speak as an examiner. I wouldn't be examining you, but it would be Mick and probably your tutor or Jeff. We're not looking for someone to kind of, hey, how you doing? Hi.
Yeah.
We're not looking for you. In other words, we're not looking for you to be me. You know what I mean? That's kind of me and maybe my energy or whatever the song or the music requires. But you were engaged in the music. You were very much into what I think you were doing, and you've got in the chat, angry performance equals intense performance. And that
He's
very
not wrong.
much that's Konstantinos. That might be very much Konstantinos's energy, and this is absolutely quite fine if this is what kind of motivates you in your performance. But I think you know, I think it was really, really well done. Wishing you all the best for your live, for your interim and your final recital. Really wonderful. Well done, Matt. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone else, for your kind words as well. It's very nice of you.
So that was Matt Parks on drums. And we're going to now continue with some singing. We're going to go back to the classical realm. And we have Olivia Thomas, one of our finalist sopranos, who is going to be performing a bit of Handel, a bit of Mozart, and finishing up with a bit of Quilter. Take it away, Olivia.
I will be beginning with singing Handel's oratorio aria, O Had I Jubal's Lyre. Next, I will be singing Vedrai Carino from Mozart's Don Giovanni. Che bel rimedi Thank you. For my final piece, I will be singing Roger Quilter's Now Sleeps the Crimson Petal. Thank you very much for listening.
That was Olivia Thomas giving us some Handel, some Mozart, and finally that lovely Quilter song, Now Sleeps the Crimson Petal. Olivia, welcome.
Hi.
Congratulations. How did
Thank
that
you.
feel watching? As a singer, I hate watching myself. I detest it, but
Yeah.
it's always a good medicine. How did you feel watching yourself?
Quite uncomfortable, not going to lie, but I'm trying to watch myself a lot more, record myself a lot more, especially in these times, to get more comfortable. But yeah.
What did you take away from that? What would you work on? Matt said he wanted to have a less angry face.
Yeah. I guess I was trying to look at the camera, so you know, like I would be engaged with an audience, I guess, if I was performing it live. So I was trying to do that as well as, you know, conveying the emotions of the pieces, I guess. Yeah.
I would say, and I urge everyone. I'll be doing a video craft session, I think, in a few weeks. I would urge everyone to not necessarily feel like you have to look at that camera. So, for example, in your opening song, "Oh Had I Jubel's Lyre" from Judas Maccabeus, perhaps you're hearing the sound up here. It could be here, higher. It could be over the camera to one side. You could maybe switch your gaze. So you can feel free, I think, to play around with the gaze and draw the audience into something that's happening to you. It doesn't have to just be to us. I mean, Matt was fully concentrated, again, as I said to him, on his drums. It's not necessary that he'd be saying, "Hey, how you doing, guys? Come on." And sometimes that's great. Wave magnetic, great example of a showman who was engaging with us, right, last week. But that's not necessarily, and it depends on the song, right? And so I think that Jubel's Lyre you're hearing. Another great, we're going to talk about any questions, by the way, please put them through. People are complimenting you on your breath control. What I was most impressed by was your legato and how the bottom of your voice has really developed, I think, in the well, now this is your fourth year, but the 3 years that I've known you and hearing your voice, that legato sound, that focus to the sound, I really think is there. Tell us about the second aria. I put two translations into the chat. The first one was absolutely rubbish, which I realized as I actually read it. It's just what I found quickly on the internet. And the second one is much better. What's happening in this aria? What opera is it from, and what's happening?
So this is Mozart's Don Giovanni, and the girl who is singing this aria, she's a young girl called Zerlina, and she's a young peasant girl, and she is comforting her fiance who has just been beaten up by Don Giovanni, who is this quite young, arrogant man. He was disguised as someone else when he beat up her fiance. So she's just comforting him and telling him that, you know, her love for him is the remedy. She's telling him to put his hand on her heart. So yes, yeah, she's saying that he doesn't need any sort of medicines or anything. She has the cure for him, basically. Yeah.
And the Italian, it's quite racy. And Zerlina's not quite sure whether she's in love with the Don as well. He's
Yeah.
almost succeeded in seducing her, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So she's almost trying to convince herself that she still loves Mosetto there. So there's an ambiguity in it, and outrageous, the language. That's why I couldn't stand the first translation I put up. She says "toccami qua," which
Yeah.
literally means
Yeah. Well, touch me here, I guess.
touch me here,
But
touch
I
me
think,
here.
yeah,
It's quite,
yeah,
and depending on the staging, the students here can imagine, if you've ever seen Don Giovanni. Depending on the staging, it's quite intimate language there. So there's a real connection in that aria. Really beautiful. Any other questions? I think that was really wonderful. Keep doing what you're doing, and as I was saying, maybe experiment, as I encourage all the students to experiment with the camera and thinking about the gaze. You have up, you have down, you have over, you have under, you have a cross, different songs, and think of the sounds as you listen to yourself or as you listen to the piano, especially for the classical singers, where you're going to go. But that was really some beautiful performances, some wonderful coloratura, and some very focused sound and very committed and touching performance. I especially enjoyed that quilter. So thank you very much, Olivia.
thank you
Wonderful.
so much.
Brava. And we're going to move on now to, we have Jake Lloyd, who is going to be performing the first movement of Neruda's Trumpet Concerto. Take it away, Jake. Oh, Jake. So that was the first movement of Neruda's trumpet concerto. Jake, welcome.
You're right.
First question, I have a question for you. That was some beautiful playing.
Thank you.
But a few of us have asked, and I was wondering myself, how are you capturing that sound?
So I've
sound like a microphone in the room.
So I plugged an SM57 into an audio interface into GarageBand and played it that way instead of using the dictaphone. So it just helps get just a better quality of sound, really.
Right. Okay. Because it was, but of course, for your interim recitals and your interim recital, you will be using as the Zoom recorder as we asked.
Yeah.
So as lovely as that sound was, that's a processing of the sound. That's probably okay for this format. But to make sure everyone's on a level playing field, we'll have the equipment. Only certain instruments, sometimes an interface is necessary, but in your case, I suppose it's a matter also of finding the right acoustic. What acoustic do you prefer to play in?
I think for me, I just prefer a larger room. Hence why I did it in my living room rather than in a practice room. The practice rooms for me, they're just quite dead because I know they just it's good for practicing in, but it's not really good. It's not my favorite place to play in, to be honest.
Sure, and there was some wonderful. You're seeing the chat comments, some lovely tone controls.
Oh yes, thank you very much.
Intonation really was excellent, and the articulation was really wonderful. Why did you choose this piece?
I think because the part of the trumpet repertoire that everyone knows is the Haydn and the Hummel. I say that, but I'm playing the Haydn in my interim. But the Neruda is just a piece that's not always played, and I feel like it deserves to be played.
I see. He's a Czech composer.
Yeah. So it's one of the ones. It's the first piece of my final recital at the moment as well. So I'd rather kind of not stay clear of the Haydn and the Hummel, but kind of play other things instead of, because everyone knows the Haydn and the Hummel.
Yeah.
Kind of.
I've asked this of almost all of you. Watching yourself, what did you learn about yourself as a performer?
Oh yeah, I hate watching myself and listening to myself. It's always one of those things. It's like you hear every little mistake you make, and I don't know. It's just a bit awkward.
Well, making mistakes and giving a live performance is part of live performance. That's what makes it different from recording, right? You get into a recording studio and you could do something over and over again. And often I find when recording pieces, sometimes the life is beaten out of it because you try to get it perfect. But in getting something perfect, you sometimes really lose something. And so I think, yes, when we listen to ourselves, we're kind of go, oh, but I hope what you also do and what you all do when you're listening to yourself and when you're deciding what take to submit for your interim recitals, that make a list of the good things, the things that are going right, as much as the things that are going wrong. And sometimes you could have one or two small things, but the rest of it, you just have a smashing performance, and that's the performance maybe that you're going to want the examiners to see, where you've captured something, So I think you should be proud of that performance.
Thank you.
It was really some lovely playing. So congratulations, Jake.
Thank you.
I believe we have our last performer. Do we have Andrew Legg? And Andrew's going to be playing some fiddle music for us. And I think we're going to find out. He's going to tell us about it. If he doesn't in the video, he'll tell us about it afterwards. So our final performer is Andrew Legg playing some fiddle folk fiddle music. Take it away, Andrew.
My name's Andrew Legg. I'm going to be playing you some traditional tunes today. I'm part of the folk degree here in Newcastle. So I'm going to start off with a slow air, which is called Dunotter's Castle, which was written by Sharon Hassan, who lives in Inch, and this is a castle you can find in Stonehaven. This was actually written for the Stonehaven Folk Festival back in 2016. Now I'm going to be playing my final set. So I'm going to play you a march in 2 reels. The first march, well the only march even, is called Irene's Meldrums of Welcome to Bonaccord. Then I go into a tune which me and Jenna McCrory, who's also part of the folk degree, and she is an amazing guitarist and just a brilliant musician. And it actually doesn't have a name yet, so if anybody can think of a name while they're hearing it, please get in touch with us. And I finish off with another Sharon Hassan tune actually, which is called The Monstrous Regiment of Women. Thank you for listening, and hope you enjoy the rest of the concert. Well, depending if I am on the list, if I'm last or if I am, but enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was Andrew Legg on the fiddle. Thank you very much, Andrew. Andrew, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, welcome. Congratulations. How did that feel watching yourself?
A bit weird, like definitely a bit weird.
Well, it was beautiful. As you can see in the chat, you got some great compliments on your ornamentation, the cleanness of the ornaments, your
Well, thank you.
cuts, your double stopping, your sliding, and you had a lovely swing to your tone, which I thought was great. And one thing I really was very impressed by was your dynamic control, which was really wonderful. There's that one part in the first in the Stonehaven piece where you just took it away to pianissimo and then went back in. So I mean, some wonderful bow control there. We have a question. Does the shape of the fiddle you're playing, does that make shifting easier compared to other fiddles you've played? Does that, I mean, how many fiddles have you played? Do you play different ones? And tell us about
Yeah.
your instrument.
Yeah, so the fiddle I've actually got is from where I live. It's made from wood that was chopped down to make toilets in the center of Falkabers in my square. So I basically got toilet wood water or something, like wood water or something. So it's basically the shape of it gives it like I could put viola strings on it as well because it's a little bit bigger than a normal violin, but a little bit shorter than a viola. So I really like to try and get the like lower notes and really like express them in the slow air especially. But I would say what I noticed when I first started playing it was like, for example, like trying to get the C sharp on the G string was like I needed to actually stretch a little further and stuff like that. Just well, I've got little wee fingers and they're quite chubby as well, so it's quite hard to stretch them fully. Like
Well, it was brilliant. It's interesting you say that because for a second, I did think you were playing a viola. It's quite a lovely chunky instrument there, but it's as you said, it's slightly shorter than a violin, but longer than a viola. I think you were saying, yeah.
it's slightly longer than a violin, but slightly shorter than a viola.
Right. Sorry, it's the other way around, and
Yeah.
and you can use slightly different strings as well, which is really interesting. Any other questions for Andrew? We got a couple names coming in, and now that you've told us about the wood on the instrument, can lead to all kinds of possibilities for the name of that tune. But yeah, I won't say them any of them. I came up with one, but you can see them there in the chat. Maybe you'll become inspired to name that. Watching yourself, what do you see yourself working on for the rest of the year now that you've seen that performance? Where do you want to take your playing?
Well, what I
for the rest of
felt
the
with the thing was I really struggled with the idea of like not tapping my foot to keep my, especially in the march, because in a march you need to be really rigid with your timing and really strict. So I found it really hard to not tap my foot because then I thought, well, the sound it'll go through into the sound and then you won't maybe hear me actually playing because my foot's quite loud when it's tapping. So I really struggled with that idea. But then what I worked out was if I lay like a little cushion on the floor, I can actually start tapping my foot a bit. Like so, I've really struggled with trying to work ways round on how to actually record it instead of in a live performance. You can actually get away with doing the tapping and that because I feel
absolutely,
yeah, the dynamics in a room and also the use of dynamics. I really thought I was really nervous to do it because I was thinking if I go too quiet, it might not actually come through in the video. But after listening to it there, it's actually worked quite well. I
it
felt
absolutely did, and that's sometimes you take some risks with dynamics, and sometimes you take it away so much that maybe it just goes off the string or whatever. But it absolutely worked, and a little more difficult on video to convey dynamic variations, and it really did come across beautifully. And I hope you figure out a way to incorporate toe tapping that doesn't completely overshadow your playing. I'm sure there are ways other than putting a cushion under your foot, but maybe some of your colleagues can put some suggestions in the chat there as you guys all share best practice. Well, thank you very much, Andrew. Beautiful playing. And can we just have a final round of applause for all of our performances, for Cindy Lee, Matt Parks, Olivia Thomas, Jake Lloyd, and finally, last but not least, Andrew. It was some really wonderful playing. As always, thanks to Olivia Cameron, who's behind the scenes with this, and also for Fred Hollingsworth, who is very much the producer of this show and who is coordinating this in a really wonderful way and always makes it seem smooth and just a very slick show. So I hope everyone out there enjoyed this. As usual, it has made my week. I know we have a great time here on Thursdays, and looking forward to seeing you all again next Thursday, same time. Until then, be safe, take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next week. And thanks again once more to the players. Fantastic. Congratulations.